Hello, we're going to start the meeting in about 5 minutes. So thank you for your patience.
Welcome to the first of 3 public workshops for the amendment to the 2021 Regional Plan. I'm Kirsten Yucatel, a planner in the Environmental Compliance Group at SANDAG. I'm joined by Lauren Lee, who will be running our meeting, and Keith Greer, Manager of Environmental Compliance for SANDAG. We are here to provide information on the amendment to the 2021 Regional Plan. We will have a Q&A session where we will answer any questions, and then we're going to take public comments. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be posted to the website. So we're going to start with a brief presentation, but we have enabled the Q&A feature of the webinar. So please feel free to type in any questions you might have during the presentation. After the presentation, we'll answer any received questions, and then we'll take verbal comments. All comments will be transcribed and included in the final version of the amendment. Next slide, please. So in September 2022, SANDAG Board of Directors directed staff to prepare an amendment to the 2021 regional plan focused on removing the regional road usage charge, or RUC. In keeping with direction from the board, the amendment included no new construction, no changes to the transportation network, no land use changes, no changes to the programs or policies of the 2021 regional plan apart from the RUC, and no changes to cost assumptions. In addition to removing the regional RUC, revenue assumptions were updated and new modeling was completed for the amendment to assess the impacts on GHG emissions and federal air quality standards. The model used for the amendment was the version of the activity-based model that SANDAG used for the 2021 regional plan with two updates. The first update addressed a software bug fix for the cross-border portion of the model so that the amendment results more accurately reflect cross-border traffic flow. And the second amendment adjusted the allocation of employees at large employment centers in the region to more accurately reflect the concentration of employees at large employment centers. Next slide, please. So the draft amendment is currently out for public comment through August 8th. In addition to today's workshop, there are multiple ways to comment. The amendment has a webpage on the SANDAG website, screenshot on this slide, under the Regional Plan tab, which you can see on the homepage of the SANDAG website. On the amendment webpage, you can find the draft amendment and appendices, as well as an email address for emailing comments, an address where comments can physically be mailed, and an online comment form. Additionally, we will be holding two more virtual public workshops on July 31st and August 3rd, where verbal comments can be shared. Those workshops will be held on July 31st at 5 p.m. and August 3rd at 8:30 a.m. In addition to the amendment, pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, SANDAG has prepared a draft supplemental EIR addressing the amendment's environmental impacts. The draft SEIR is also out for public comment from now until August 28th. Today's workshop is focused on the amendment, so we aren't taking comments on the draft supplemental EIR, but if you would like to comment on the SEIR, please visit the amendment webpage. And if you go to the bottom section of that page, you can find the email address, the mailing address, and the online comment tool specifically for the supplemental EIR. Next page, please. So as part of the amendment analysis, we had to comply with federal and state standards, and specifically for the state, comply with the GHG reduction targets that have been set by the state and the California Air Resources Board under SB 375. This table compares the GHG reductions achieved under the 2021 plan and under the amendment. And you can see that we achieved lower VMT and GHG reductions, VMT being vehicle miles traveled, under lower VMT and greater GHG reductions under the 2021 regional plan at a rate of 20.4%. The amendment achieves an 18.6 reduction under that same comparison. However, CARB guidelines provide that 18.6 rounds up to 19%. And so the amendment does meet the SB 375 target of 19%. Next slide, please. Can you go up one slide, Lauren? Thank you. In addition to looking at GHG, we updated the revenue assumptions for the amendment, incorporating changes that had occurred since the 2021 regional plan's adoption, and also reflecting the removal of the regional RUC. You see on this slide the specific revenue assumptions that have been updated. The first line is the removal of the regional RUC. The second line shows the revenue that had been anticipated from the initiative funding measure that did not make the ballot in 2022. The third line shows the Transnet revenue estimates that were approved by the SANDAG Board of Directors in April of 2022. And the fourth and fifth lines show updated state and federal funding revenues, largely resulting from money available under the American Jobs and Infrastructure Act, which was passed after the adoption of the 2021 regional plan. So taken together in aggregate, these updated assumptions reduce total anticipated revenues by just under $8 billion. Next slide, please. However, this slide showed that because the 2021 regional plan projected a surplus of $10 billion by 2050, there remains enough revenue in the amendment to cover the costs of the 2021 plan, despite the $8 billion reduction. And this slide shows total revenue sources assumed under the amendment and total costs. So you can see that there are sufficient funds, but about a quarter of the surplus anticipated under the 2021 regional plan. Next slide, please. In addition to updating revenues and analyzing the amendment's impacts on GHG reduction targets, SANDAG also analyzed the amendment's impacts to air quality, assessed its performance under the performance measures set out in the 2021 regional plan, and also looked at the impacts to disadvantaged communities. The analysis showed that the amendment meets federal air quality standards, including ozone, for which our region is non-attainment. Removing the regional RUC had very minor impacts to the network performance measures set out in the 2020 regional plan, less than 1%. And the data supports that removing the RUC does not result in any disparate or disproportionate impacts to disadvantaged communities. All of the data and analysis supporting these conclusions and the details of the updated revenue assumptions and GHG impacts can be found online on the amendment webpage on the SANDAG website. Next slide, please. After public comment closes, the amendment will be finalized and brought back to the SANDAG Board for consideration. Public comment on the amendment closes on August 8th. After that, we will finalize and include responses to comments received. The amendment is expected to go to the SANDAG Board in October, along with a supplemental environmental impact report, which you see on this timeline. Should the SANDAG Board adopt the amendment and certify the SEIR, the amendment will then be submitted to federal and state agencies for approval. And those submissions are anticipated to occur in November. Next slide, please. That's the conclusion of the presentation. So we will now turn to any questions, if there are any in the chat, and then we will follow with comments. They will be limited to 3 minutes. There will be one round of comments so that we can make sure that everyone has an opportunity to participate. Those comments will be transcribed and will be included in the final version of the amendment. And should you have any additional comments to share after this meeting, please, this slide contains the web address for our website, our mailing address, the email you can use. And again, if you go to the SANDAG amendment, the SANDAG website and go to the amendment webpage, you can use the online comment tool. We will also have 2 future public workshops on July 31st at 5 p.m. and also on August 3rd at 8:30 a.m. One question, which I'll read and then we'll answer. And then if there aren't other questions, we'll turn to comments. The question says, does the amendment include any assumptions about state or federal RUCs? The amendment is focused on removing the regional RUC. The state RUC is left in as an assumption. It's obviously outside of SANDAG's control. It remains in pilot stages with the state, so we don't have specific details on that at the moment. If anyone has any other questions, please raise your hand or type it in the chat. And if seeing none in a moment, we'll move to taking comments. while we wait to see if there are any additional questions. If you do have a comment, please raise your hand. Lauren will unmute you so that you can share your comment, and you'll see the timer as well. Okay, well, I think we can probably move away from questions and move to comments. So I'll turn it over to Lauren to unmute and begin the comment period. We have one additional question before we move to comment. It says, does the removal of the local rock affect the timing of any of the projects in the plan? The answer is no. The projects and policies and programs of the 2021 plan remain the same.
Hi, David. I'm going to promote you and then you'll do. Thank you, we're allowed to take a comment on something. And David, I can see that you're muted. You can unmute yourself. And so if there's a comment or question.
Hi, David. I know that you have a comment you would like to share. You show as muted on your end. So if you could unmute yourself, Lauren has promoted you so that you can share your comment. In the meantime, is there anyone else who has a comment? And if so, please raise your hand.
Great. Hi, Pete. I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself, and then I'll start you sharing the comment. And then David, we'll come back to you. If you're able to. You're able to unmute.
Okay, hi. I'm just wondering if this process will have any effect on the planning for the 2025 regional plan.
Heidi, in answer to your question, no, not specifically. The 2025 plan is underway and is being developed, and there will be multiple opportunities for public comment and participation in it. This is focused on removing the ruck only, and the additional requirements that had to be met to do that under federal and state law.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments? And if so, please raise your hand. So we really appreciate everyone attending today, but we don't seem to have any additional public comments to take. So we are going to conclude the meeting, but I do want to remind everyone of the ways to participate and comment on the amendment. You can go to the SANDAG website and go to the amendment webpage. There is an online comment tool on that page. There is also our mailing address, which you see on this slide, and the email through which you can submit comments, also on this slide. We have 2 more meetings on July 31st at 5 p.m. and on August 3rd at 8:30 a.m. And thank you very much for participating today.